Hello everybody, this is Strathkelvin Talking Newspaper on the 7th of November 2018, issue number 1803. Today it's the B team and I'll start it off, Shirley starting it, then Helen and then June and then Rosalind and Bert is doing the recording. The first article we've got this week is there's a threat to libraries and jobs are put at risk. People have reacted with fury over plans to close 3 libraries and place jobs at risk. East Dunbartonshire Leisure and Culture, the arm's length organisation, funded and supported by East Dunbartonshire Council, voted by 5-2 last week to shut libraries at Lenzie, Milton of Campsie and Westerton as part of cost-cutting measures. This proposal will now go forward to a meeting of the council later this month. There are 5 councillors within the 11-strong board of EDLC. Councillor Susan Murray, Lib Dems, supported the closures. Councillors Gillian Rennick, SNP, and Jim Gibson opposed them. Councillor Sheila Meakin, Conservative, abstained, and Councillor Stuart MacDonald, Labour, was not at the meeting. Trade Union, Unison, and Lenzie Councillor Gillian Rennick have reacted angrily to the decision. Unison convener Craig Bell said, "I would request that EDLC board reconsider this destructive proposal and safeguard the future of these vital public resources." The union is also dismayed that the EDLC Trust has failed in its obligation to consult with recognised trade unions in relation to this proposal and the implications it may have for our members employed in these roles. Councillor Rennick is urging people to contact their local councillors to campaign to keep them open and said all the council will save is £85,000. It's so short-sighted and it's not just the libraries. Staff jobs will be put at risk and I cannot and will not support it. She added 2 options were put to the board to close all 3 libraries or reduce their opening days. I was prepared to look at a reduction in days, but that wasn't accepted. Kirkintilloch East and North and Twecker councillor Susan Murray, who supported the closures, said, "When every penny counts and funding is shrinking, EDLC has to listen to their customers and give value for money." She added more people were choosing the libraries linked to community hubs in East Dunbartonshire and said the smaller libraries are not so well used. Despite the increase in home ownership in the area, Lenzie Library use continues to fall. However, I know that for the people who are still using these libraries, this will be a sad loss in their local area and another casualty of the squeeze on local authority funding. Both EDLC and the council are also important employers in East Dunbartonshire, and I will do everything I can to keep these jobs. Residents have been voicing their opposition on the Herald's Facebook page, with one posting, "Leave Lenzie Library alone," while another stated, "What a sad decision it is to close libraries anywhere under any circumstances." Another posted, "People on universal credit can't afford broadband, have to sign in online and fill in a journal. Where do they go?" Politicians join library cut protest. Opposition politicians have hit out at the plan to shut the 3 local libraries. Strathkelvin MSP Rona Mackay and Kirkintilloch East MP Stuart MacDonald, both SNP, have voiced their protest, along with local Green MSP Ross Greer and Bishopbriggs North and Campsie councillor Paul Ferretti. Ms Mackay told the Herald she has written to the head of Leisure Trust, Mark Grant, to ask why and how the decision was reached, as well as the Chief Executive of East Dunbartonshire Council. She said, "I'm shocked and angry at this decision to close libraries at a time when we're encouraging children to read more and more people will need to access them to use the internet to claim universal credit benefits. It's simply madness." Mr MacDonald added, "The proposal to close Craighead Library in Milton of Campsie is totally unacceptable and will cause considerable anger in the village. The local library is a hugely valued service, making available not only books but internet access, facts and community information. The council should put a stop to this short-sighted and nonsensical move." Councillor Ferretti said the closure of Craighead Library will mean some vulnerable constituents will have to walk to Lennoxtown or Kirkintilloch to update universal credit claims. Mr Greer said, "For EDLC, an arm's-length company, to recommend closing these 3 libraries is a massive letdown to local people. I hope the council will join myself and thousands of library users in rejecting these proposals. Libraries are invaluable for communities, not just for books, but for IT access for many who still do not have it, and for many other purposes. Their value can't be calculated in cash alone."
Hello, it's Helen here, and now we have the intimations. Irvine, Georgie. Peacefully at Marie Curie Hospice, Georgie Irvine Barry, much-loved wife of Robert, mother to Alan, Donna and the late Brian and Walter, grandmother to Robbie, Lauren, Bonnie, Lee, Tom and Callum. Funeral at Dildowie Crematorium on Wednesday 7th of November at 12 noon. No flowers please. Donations to Marie Curie Hospice. King, Clive. Peacefully at Glasgow Royal Infirmary on Saturday, October the 27th, 2018, Clive, beloved husband of Margaret, loving dad of Gordon, Jennifer and Cameron, and much-loved granddad to his grandchildren. Funeral service to take place at Falkirk Crematorium on Thursday, November the 8th at 11:30 a.m. Family flowers only, please. There will be a retirement collection in favour of Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland. Mackenzie, Betty. Peacefully on October the 23rd, 2018 at Strathkelvin Care Home. Beloved wife of the late Bill, much-loved mum of the late Lynn and Isabel, mother-in-law of Andy, Alex and an adored gran. Funeral service will take place on Friday, November the 9th, 2018 at St Mary's Parish Church, Kirkintilloch at 10:30 a.m. Thereafter to Dildowie Crematorium for 11:45. Family flowers only. Donations, if desired, to Alzheimer's Scotland. The family would like to thank all staff at Stobhill Care Home for their care and support of Betty. Roger, Willie. Peacefully on Saturday, November the 3rd, 2018, dearly loved husband of Anne, father of Jana, Robin, Guy and Susan, and much-loved grandpa. Funeral service at St Mary's Parish Church, Kirkintilloch on Saturday, November the 10th, at 10:30 and thereafter to Old Isle Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. People with MS will benefit from new Scottish strategy. A charity has made a commitment to transform support for people living with multiple sclerosis in Scotland. The MS Society Scotland has produced its first national strategy pledging to ensure the MS community can have the best possible quality of life. Scotland has one of the highest rates of MS in the world. The charity's director, Morna Simpkins, said, MS affects more than 11,000 of us in Scotland and is often painful and exhausting, causing problems with how we walk, move, see, think and feel. We are continuing to listen to people living with MS throughout the country, and this plan shows our commitment to working together to stop MS. We want people with MS to have access to the right care and support at the right time, no matter where they live in Scotland. We will help make this a reality. People living with MS from across the country had input into the strategy's 7 goals, which commit to make sure that people's voices are heard. Pledges include an increased access to treatments, campaigning to end the financial impacts of the diagnosis, and an equal say in decisions. The Scotland strategy is designed to complement the charity's UK-wide approach while ensuring that it best addresses the issues that most concern people with MS in Scotland. The charity will continue campaigning on disability benefits to ensure the new social security system in Scotland works for people living with MS, including campaigning to scrap the controversial 20-metre rule as a way of assessing people's mobility. It also commits to ensuring better quality information is provided to the MS community and to give those diagnosed greater certainty about the future. The local group network will continue to play a big role in delivering support and information, and the MS Society Scotland will help develop new services, impact and income. Council nominated for award for maintenance of local roads. East Dunbartonshire Council is in the running for a UK-wide award for its maintenance of local roads. The Council has named a finalist in the Best Performance for Highways Award, announced annually by the Association for Public Service Excellence. This is the second year the area has been shortlisted for this prestigious honour. The Council is responsible for all adopted public roads, pavements and footpaths within East Dunbartonshire, covering some 500 kilometres of carriageway. That includes inspections, maintenance, gritting, street lighting, pavements, drains, gullies, road signs and more. Councillor Billy Hendries, convener of the Council's Place Neighbourhood Committee, said, "This is a great news and recognition for the excellent work undertaken by our road service. Our officers work proactively and in response to reports from the public." Old Kirk hosts Christmas Arts and Craft exhibition again. This popular Christmas art and craft exhibition at the Old Kirk Museum in Kirkendilloch is back in town, giving shoppers plenty of time to find that special Christmas gift. As well as a selection of unique and unusual gifts, including handmade jewellery, ceramics, woodwork and textiles, visitors will also be able to enjoy the work of guest artist Jackie Stevenson. Jackie studied at the Glasgow School of Art and exhibits widely in the UK. Sandy Marshall, chair of EDLC Trust, said, "We will be joined by some special guests for the opening ceremony, including Steps songsters, who will be singing some memorable Christmas carols, and Santa Claus will be giving out prizes to our children's competition winners." Stoptober encourages smokers to stub it out. Vaporised Nationwide's No Ifs, No Buts, No Excuses campaign rolled into Kirkendilloch recently. The campaign has been launched by the UK's largest retailer of vaping products to inform smokers on the benefits of making the switch during Stoptober. Stoptober is a 28-day stop smoking campaign from Public Health England. The campaign has driven over 1 million to quit at attempts and is the biggest mass quit attempt in the country. Customers visiting the store at Cowgate engaged with the educational team and played the Why Switch to Vaping game, which includes lots of facts about the health risks of smoking and benefits of making the switch to vaping.
Hi, it's June. Good to be back with you again. Struggling families rely on Lifeline grant funding. More than 300,000 low-income households in Scotland have been supported by emergency grant funding during the past 5 years, official statistics show. A total of £173 million was paid out through the Scottish Welfare Fund, which helps people buy everyday essential items during times of crisis. The fund pays for food, nappies or toiletries and covers heating costs or other living expenses. Grants are also given to people facing disaster or emergency situations, such as flooding, and funding assists family facing exceptional pressure with one-off costs for items such as a washing machine or cooker. A total of 306,305 low-income households have received money from the fund through the Community Care Grant or Crisis Grant. Statistics for the period April 2013 to June 30th, 2018 show that a third of households receiving a Scottish Welfare Fund award were families with children, while just over half were single-person households with no children. Social Security Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville MSP said, "It is a sad fact of life for many families that an unexpected expense can completely disrupt a carefully managed household budget. People should never have to face a choice between eating or heating." The Scottish Welfare Fund was created to provide a vital lifeline for people in times of need, allowing them to cover the everyday necessities. While I am pleased that the fund has been able to help more than 300,000 households across the country since its start, I am dismayed that so many people find themselves in the position of needing to access emergency help. Graham Brown, Director of Shelter Scotland, believes the figures are another sign of the human cost of Scotland's housing crisis. He said, "The fact that applications for crisis grants continues to rise, 7% upon the same time last year, shows the sheer scale of just how many households in Scotland continued to struggle to make ends meet and keep a roof over their heads." Even more worrying is another huge increase, 69%, in the record reason for applying for a crisis grant as being emergency, nowhere to stay, and may resort to rough sleeping. We hear every day how high housing costs combined with low income and stagnant wages are pushing more and more households into poverty and putting them at greater risk of homelessness. Anyone struggling with housing costs can call our free national helpline on 0808 800 4444. Store Pals in Pink for breast cancer care. Asda colleagues and Bishopbriggs visited the Campsie Grove Residents Social Club along with Deputy Provost Gary Hughes for a charity afternoon tea as part of the retailer's Tickled Pink campaign. The afternoon tea, led by community champion Lorraine MacDonald, helped raise more than £600 in vital funds for charities Breast Cancer Care and Breast Cancer Now. The residents rallied together to ensure a full afternoon of fun, with everyone enjoying tea, coffee and home baking, with lots of pink-themed prizes given out on the tombolas and raffle. It was also a great opportunity for residents to showcase the recently revamped gardens at the social club, thanks to a donation from the Asda Foundation, which helped buy additional garden plants, bulbs, soil and garden furniture. ASDA has already raised £60 million through the campaign over the past 22 years. The money has gone towards supporting improved care and information for anyone affected by breast cancer, to funding life-saving research to help stop women dying of the disease in the future. Lorraine MacDonald, as the Bishopbriggs Community Champion, said, "We were thrilled at the turnout to the Tickled Pink afternoon tea. A special thank you to Deputy Provost Gary Hughes for popping in, and also all the residents at the Cantsey Social Club for all their help with organising and hosting us." In addition to the afternoon tea, colleagues have been busy raising funds for the charities supported through Tickled Pink throughout the month of October to help fund much-needed support for those affected by the disease, as well as for vital research. MP nominates her Pub of the Year. Local MP Jo Swinson has picked East Dunbartonshire's entry for the Parliamentary Pub of the Year competition. The annual contest gives all MPs the opportunity to enter one pub in their local area for consideration for the title of Parliamentary Pub of the Year. After receiving nominations from residents, Jo has put forward Finsbury in Milngavie for a chance to win. The venue opened its doors in 2016 and a year later won the New Bar Award in the Scottish Bar and Pubs Awards. The pub's directors are Billy Milligan from Bearsden, who has more than 18 years of bar restaurant industry experience and is also a coach and player for the local rugby and union team west of Scotland. Fellow director Alistair Kellogg is the former captain of Glasgow Warriors and the Scottish national team. Jo said, "I was delighted to meet Billy and the team. The place has gone from strength to strength since it opened 2.5 years ago. Finsbury has already established itself as a much-loved meeting point in the local community, given their record co-hosting this year's Milngavie Food and Drink Festival and putting on events all year round for residents. I wish them the best of luck in the competition and hope that the judges recognise the fantastic work that they do." David Carson, operations manager at Finsbury, said, "We were delighted to welcome Jo to Finsbury this week and are very excited to be East Dunbartonshire's nomination for the competition. Massive thanks to everyone who wrote to Jo to recommend us for the nomination."
Budget fails local people. This is by Liz Gallagher. SNP MSP Rona Mackay has criticised the UK government for failing the people of Strathkelvin and Bearsden following this week's budget. She said that after promising to end austerity, the UK government's budget had, in fact, failed Scottish people, with Scotland's resource block grant almost £2 billion lower in real terms next year than it was less than a decade ago. The MSP said the budget did not deliver on the promises of a rise in public spending. Scotland's NHS has been short-changed. The disastrous rollout of universal credit has not been halted, and the richest 10% of the UK population would be the ones who would benefit most from Tory tax cuts. Ms Mackay said, "This Tory budget falls a long way short of delivering for the people of Scotland. Working people will be £1,600 worse off thanks to their mishandling of Brexit. And the changes in this year's budget do nothing to alleviate the untold damage this will do. The reality of this budget
is that the Tories have dug themselves a deeper hole with no clue how to get out of it. People in Strathkelvin and Bearsden and across Scotland are getting a bad deal with the Tories. The SNP will not support Tory tax cuts for the richest at the expense of the poor. Instead of ploughing on with more harmful austerity, the UK government should commit to a realistic plan for investment in public services, to grow the economy and to boost jobs, incomes and living standards. This budget has exposed in stark terms the democratic deficit of the UK and why we need full powers over Scotland's finances to grow our economy and build a fairer country. The Scottish Government's draft budget plans will be set out in December. Chancellor Philip Hammond used his budget, the last before the UK leaves the EU in March 2019, to claim that the era of austerity is finally coming to an end. The latest set of tax and spending plans included a freeze on whisky duty and oil industry taxes and an extra £950 million for the Scottish Government over 3 years. But Mr Hammond's Scottish counterpart, Finance Secretary Derek Mackay, said the UK government had made a choice not to end austerity and short-change Scotland. He said they could have done much more to stimulate the economy and invest in our public services and have chosen not to. Scheme has delivered business rate bonus. The Small Business Bonus Scheme, SBBS, has provided £254 million in rates relief to 119,442 businesses in 2018 to 19, a 65% increase since 2008 to 9. New statistics published show that the commitment to lift 100,000 properties out of business rates altogether has been delivered. This means around 104,000 properties being in receipt of 100% SBBS in 2018 to 19. Welcoming the figures, Minister for Public Finances Kate Forbes said, "Since its introduction, the scheme has saved businesses in Scotland over £1.7 billion. We offer the most competitive rates reliefs package in the UK. Any announcement on non-due domestic rates will be set out in the December budget." Creative capers from talented care came, and this is by Liz Gallagher. The creative care team at Brackenbray House was once again flying the flag for Bishopbriggs at a recent crafts show at Glasgow SECC. Animal cards measuring 6 by 6 by the well-known artist Hannah Dale were blown up life-size and recreated in 3D using the group's own 3D decoupage cutting and shaping techniques. Nan Middleton, Creative Care Director, said, "After teaching and exhibiting 3D decoupage for 40 years in Milngavie and now Bishopbriggs, it is just wonderful to know we can still make large numbers of people stop and stare at our work." They just couldn't believe Clyde, our Highland cow, came from the 6 by 6 inch card on display and was enlarged and photocopied on a basic printer. They laughed when we said he was supported on polystyrene pizza bases, and every tuft of hair was cut by hand using dressmaking scissors. Clyde and his animal friends will be on display to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Claus at the group's famous Victorian Christmas celebrations, the first 2 weekends in December at Brackenbray House from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. An open invitation is extended to all. Charity night held in memory of David raises £1,000. a charity night at Hillhead United Social Club in Kirkintilloch, in memory of a much-loved young local man who died unexpectedly in June, has raised £1,000 for a group which assists vulnerable people in the community. Family and friends of David Burston, who was aged just 29 years when he passed, said the support for the event was overwhelming. The cash has been donated to Group Recovery Aftercare Community Enterprise. That's GRACE. Its founder, Robert Smith, said, "We appreciate this is a sad and difficult time and would like to thank all those who have contributed in such a wonderful and positive way to remember and celebrate the life of someone special."
More support for aspiring head teachers. Steps are being taken to encourage more teachers to take up leadership roles in education and schools. The Head Teacher Recruitment Working Group, which is a government professional group and union, has recommended actions to support existing head teachers and help other teachers move towards leadership roles and headship. Councils will identify potential candidates to take part in the fully funded into headship qualification, while the Scottish Government and Education Scotland will support councils with local and regional succession planning. The Independent Panel on Career Pathways is to look at pathways into and beyond headship, and the Scottish Government's teacher recruitment campaign is being extended to cover head teachers. Addressing the Association of Heads and Deputies for Scotland Conference, Deputy First Minister John Swinney said, "There's absolutely no shortage of talent or ability among the teaching workforce in Scotland, but there is a need to identify, encourage and support those who are interested in rising to the challenge of the head teacher role." While the number of teachers in promoted posts increased last year and the average age of head teachers is reducing, Scotland needs more head teachers to inspire pupils and teachers to reach their full potential. Many of the recommendations are aimed at improving support for teachers through improved coaching and development programs or by sharing best practice. This year we are supplementing our successful teacher recruitment campaign with a head teacher specific campaign to encourage teachers to consider a future in headship. Greg Dempster, the AHDS General Secretary, said, "Head teacher recruitment has been a big issue for some time. The Head Teacher Working Group report does not shy away from the challenges that need to be addressed. AHDS very much welcome the report and the actions it sets out." Ken Muir, Chief Executive of the General Teaching Council for Scotland, said, "GTC Scotland supports fully the recommendations, which, when implemented, will lead to much needed and improved recruitment of school leaders." Pipers tune up for World War I tribute. As Armistice Day approaches, East Dunbartonshire is preparing to mark 100 years since the end of World War I, with services on Sunday, November the 11th. As part of this, Pipers Scott Robertson from Bishopbriggs and brothers Lewis 14 and Callum Craigie 11 from Milton of Campsie are tuning up to take part in a special international commemoration with fellow lone pipers across the country and overseas to mark the day the guns fell silent. At 6 a.m. on Sunday, Scott will perform Battle O'er, a traditional Scottish air played after a battle at Bishopbriggs War Memorial at Kenmure Avenue. Brothers Lewis and Callum, who both play with Strathendrick Pipe Band will also participate in this tribute by playing at the Moore Memorial in Milton of Kempsey. In total, more than 1,000 pipers will be playing the tune at individual locations within their communities. A specially written tribute will also be read out. The Battles Over event has been organised by the Queen's Pageant Master Bruno Peake, LVO OBE OPR. At 6:55 p.m. on Sunday, buglers will sound the last post, and at 7 p.m. torches will be lit in a tribute called Beacons of Light, signifying the light of peace from the darkness of 4 years of war. Meanwhile, morning services organised by local churches and community councils will be held in Auchennairn, Baldurnock, Bishopbriggs, Kirkintilloch, Lennoxtown, Mulgai, Milton of Kempsey, Torrance, Twecker and Woodilea. A service organised by East Dunbartonshire Council will also be held at the War Memorial, Bearsden Cross, commencing at approximately 10:40 and will be led by the Reverend John Crabe of Bearsden Baptist Church. On road to safety officer role. More than 200 primary school pupils have taken part in training days to become junior road safety officers. The events, which included Moodiesburn, were organised by North Lanarkshire Council's road safety team. A total of 204 Primary 6 and Primary 7 pupils from 96 schools enjoyed a range of activities. The activities helped introduce them to their new voluntary roles as junior road safety officers for their school communities. They will work with other pupils, teachers and parents over the school year to promote road safety. This will include delivering presentations, running a variety of competitions, maintaining a notice board and delivering road safety campaigns. During the events, the pupils saw a demonstration of a trunk road incident support service vehicle operated by AMI to assist with incidents on trunk roads and motorways, including high visibility patrols assisting members of the public, clearing debris and identifying defects. There was also a presentation skills workshop by Alan's Magic and a road safety games session. Would you like to take up a career in early learning? A school roadshow taking place across Scotland visited Kirkintilloch High School this week as part of a continued recruitment drive to encourage more school leavers to consider a career in early learning and childcare. The recruitment campaign, called Shape Their Worlds, Shape Your Career, is visiting schools nationwide to give young people the opportunity to find out more about working in childcare. The campaign is supported with advertising across digital and social channels, as well as a website. Marie Todd, Minister for Childcare and Early Years, said, "This investment to drive forward our expansion of funded early learning and childcare underlines our commitment to making Scotland the best place to grow up. Working in childcare is an extremely rewarding role with lots of opportunities available. We hope the roadshow, which is visiting schools across Scotland and is supported by local childcare ambassadors, will inform and inspire school leavers to find out more and consider a career working with young children." The Scottish Government is committed to expanding the hours of funded early learning and childcare for 3- and 4-year-olds and eligible 2-year-olds, from the current level of 600 hours per year to 1,140 per year from 2020. It's estimated that this will require up to 11,000 additional staff to be recruited into the early learning and childcare workforce.
Hello, it's Helen again. Call to action to help improve area for all. And this is an article by Liz Gallagher. Residents are being asked to respond to a call to action to make Kirkintilloch a better place. Kirkintilloch Community Council is holding a public meeting called a Citizens' Assembly at the Town Hall on Thursday, November the 8th at 7 p.m. Gordon Carmichael, Chair of the Community Council, and local volunteers have been distributing leaflets in the area urging people to attend. He said, in 2017, Kirkintilloch Community Council, your Kirkie, were afforded the opportunity to seek the views and opinions of the townspeople of this proud town. Through the early months of this year, we endeavoured to speak with as many members of our community as possible. Over 1,500 responses were received. This was a remarkable achievement, and the initial outcomes, collated in 5 key themes, were reported back by means of feedback sessions. Some ideas were developed, and a booklet was then circulated to every household in Kirkintilloch. Further events in the summer led to the development of a community action plan, and this has since also been distributed to every home. The people who live, work and visit Kirkintilloch were asked, and your Kirkie listened. It was clear there was a real passion for the heritage and environment of the town, as well as a genuine concern for the town continuing to look after the well-being of our citizens. Kirkintilloch strives to be a place where people can feel safe, where residents value their heritage, where children and families can enjoy the environment. A town where local businesses are supported and return businesses support our local community. Yes, this is a call to action. Please don't sit back and wait for others to do this for you, for it might well never happen, or at least not in the way you want. Consider giving whatever energy or skills you might have. Use your initiative to contribute to the collective impact of our community deserves. Join us at the Citizens' Assembly in the refurbished Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Thursday, November the 8th. The Scottish SPCA is inviting animal lovers to host their very own tartan tea party to help raise vital funds for abused, abandoned and injured animals across the country. Celebrate St Andrew's Day with the Scottish SPCA by hosting a tartan tea party with friends, family or colleagues. Brew up a storm or keep it classy. Either way, you'll have a possum day. Scotland's animal welfare charities will be bringing friends, family and work colleagues together on Friday, November the 30th, St Andrew's Day, and hopes to have hundreds of parties taking place up and down the country. Shannon Comrie, the Scottish SPCA superintendent, said, "We can't wait for our first tartan tea party. It's a fantastic way to get friends together and even meeting new people, all while raising vital funds for Scotland's animals. We receive no government funding, which means we rely on donations to continue helping abused, abandoned and injured animals. Tea parties are a fantastic way to raise funds and a fun treat for all. You don't have to be a professional baker to get involved, just a professional one. Anyone interested should sign up and visit www.scottishspca.org. Charity dates for your diary. Blue Wednesday 2018. I'm sure we all know about Blue Mondays, but for most mouth cancer patients, their cancer blues will almost never leave them. There will always be a reminder of what they went through every day. Whether it's their speech, their ability to eat and drink, or even just the ability to breathe properly, there is no getting away from it. For this year's mouth Mouth Cancer Action Month, everyone is being asked to show their support by making Wednesday, November the 14th, Blue Wednesday. You can buy a blue ribbon badge, pick out something blue to wear, or don on a bright blue lipstick. ERS takes Business Champions Award. Local MP Joe Swinson visited the offices of the Environmental Reclamation Services Limited, ERS, in Bishopbriggs to present staff with a certificate of recognition as Eastern Bartonshire's Responsible Business Champion 2018. ERS was established in 1994 and specialises in making land free for use and free from contamination. The company employs a team of around 30 engineers and environmental scientists to work on large projects. In over 20 years, ERS have treated more than 1 million tonnes of soil and successfully released hundreds of sites of land for new use. In 2016, the firm made the move to 100% employee ownership and now work with the Scottish enterprise to encourage other companies to follow suit. Andrew Mackenzie, director of ERS, said, ERS is delighted and proud. Since becoming an employee-owned business in 2016, the management and staff have all worked hard to make the company a fair, encouraging, vibrant and stimulating place to work.
Worship rejected. An Islamic organisation has failed in another attempt to extend its worship and education activities at a private house in Steps. Neighbouring residents have been fiercely opposed to plans by Darussalam for the 1.5-storey property in Cumbernauld Road at the junction of Laundry Lane. Earlier this year, North Lanarkshire Council rejected proposals to allow up to 30 adults to attend the house at any time, night or day. A further planning application to allow up to 15 adults to be present between 7:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. 7 days a week was also turned down by the council. Now that decision has been upheld by Scottish Government reporter Malcolm Mahoney after an appeal by Darussalam. Currently, the organisation has permission to use one ground floor room 5 days a week for religious instruction and worship. Mostly this is for children, but on a Friday up to 10 adults are allowed to congregate. However, the organisation has twice been reported for breaching the planning conditions regarding numbers and on one occasion was fined £500. Appealing against the council's decision, Darussalam pointed out that Steps Parish Church and St Joseph Roman Catholic Church are both based in residential areas and attract greater numbers of worshippers. However, Mr Mahoney was not convinced and concluded, by expanding the religious use to the whole ground floor, increasing the maximum numbers attending and expanding the days of use, the proposal would change the premises from primarily residential to primarily religious use. I am not persuaded the property has capacity for the proposed rise in the intensity of use. It is a modest-sized house in a prominent location within a mixed-use but predominantly residential location and with access off a substandard road. The proposal would result in increased parking with comings and goings over more hours and during the weekend as well as weekdays, all of which would, in my view, be likely to be detrimental to residential amenity and to the predominantly residential character of the area. These factors lead me to conclude that the proposal would not satisfy the Council's local plan policies. Neighbouring residents say they already have to put up with noise and traffic problems, and allowing more worshippers would only make the situation worse. Bishopbriggs Rocks for Armistice Day. A rock painting group in Bishopbriggs has been involved in some creative capers to mark the end of World War I. The group, made up of local families, was formed earlier this year and has created a poppy line of poppy-themed painted stones which are being displayed in the front grounds of Bishopbriggs Library in the run-up to Armistice Day on Sunday, November the 11th. Lorraine Kerr of Bishopbriggs Rocks said, "The group was set up during the summer holidays by local resident Kelly O'Neill. Every school in Bishopbriggs was invited to join in, and the project has been fully supported by the local council." She added, "The group has flourished. Rock painting not only encourages arts and crafts at home for the painting of rocks and stones, but it has encouraged many local school children, siblings and their families to get out in the local parks, not just to play, but to hide and search for special painted stones. Children are still painting stones and hiding them on their school route. The delight as a stone is found or displayed on the group for the artist to see is so encouraging. One member even stated that her son was choosing to go to the park to search for stones rather than be on his computer during the school holidays." The Kirkintilloch Band Annual Concert in Kirkintilloch Town Hall, Saturday 10th November at 7 p.m. with Strathkelvin Brass, Kirkintilloch Youth Band will perform from 6:45 to welcome you to the concert, and Alistair MacDonald. Kirkintilloch Band's first concert in the newly refurbished Kirkintilloch Town Hall. Come along and enjoy an evening's entertainment when we will be joined with the ever-popular Scottish minstrel Alistair MacDonald. Tickets at the door on the evening, £5, concessions £4. This week in history. On November the 7th, 1872, the 282-ton brigantine Mary Celeste set sail from New York to Genoa, Italy. She was found adrift and deserted in the Atlantic Ocean on December the 5th, with no one on board. None of the crew or passengers were ever seen or heard from again, and what happened to them remains a mystery to this day. On November the 11th, Irises, a painting by Van Gogh, sold at Sotheby's for $49 million, or £27 million, a world record for work of art. It was painted in 1889, just before the artist committed suicide. And worldwide events from November the 6th to the 13th. November the 6th, 1986, 45 workers from the Brent oil field in the North Sea were killed when the Chinook helicopter they were travelling in crashed on approach to land at Sunbury Airport. 2 men were rescued from the sea by the Coast Guards. November the 7th, 1917. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power in Russia, known as Red October, the date being October the 25th in the old Russian calendar. The October Rising began with an armed insurrection in Petrograd. November the 8th, 1990. Ireland elected its first female president, Mary Robinson, who's pictured here. Dublin barrister defeated the former Deputy Prime Minister Brian Lenihan. It was the first time in 70 years that a presidential candidate from the Fianna Fáil party had been defeated. November the 9th, 1989. The East German government announced that all GDR residents were free to cross the border to West Germany. The Berlin Wall began as a barbed wire wall in 1961, eventually becoming a fortified concrete structure with border guards who were authorised to shoot anyone attempting to escape into West Berlin. November the 10th, 1960. Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence, which had been banned in the UK for 30 years, went on sale after a dramatic and much publicised trial. More than 200,000 copies were sold on the first day. November the 11th, 1954. Thousands of pensioners took part in a rally in London calling for an increase in their pensions from 32 shillings and sixpence to £2.10 per week. 1984. November the 12th, Chancellor Nigel Lawson announced that the £1 note would be removed from circulation and be replaced by a £1 coin. November the 13th, 1972. Princess Anne married Captain Mark Phillips at Westminster Abbey in London. It was only the second time in 200 years that a member of the royal family had married a commoner.
Your letters. Seeing the light. Mixed message sent out. Sir, for a few years now we have had the Earth Hour evening one Saturday night in March each year, organised by the Worldwide Fund, WWF, when all of us are encouraged to turn off all non-essential lights for 1 hour. While I can see the merit in this idea, I am surprised that the WWF hasn't said a word about the inappropriate use of floodlights at sports stadiums in the UK and possibly elsewhere, that seems to be occurring frequently these days. In the last few years, I have noticed an increased tendency for floodlights at football and rugby stadiums to be switched on, even when games are played in perfect daylight, and on some occasions when there is bright sunshine. One example of this I can clearly recall was the Scotland versus England World Cup qualifier match played at Hampden Park in June 2017. That was a game which kicked off at 5 p.m, and during the month of June in these parts, it doesn't start getting dark until around 10 p.m. That game was played in bright, sunny conditions throughout, yet I clearly remember noticing, to my amazement, that the floodlights were turned on. What on earth was the point of that, I ask? The main issue here is what on earth is the point of people such as the WWF having the Earth Hour evening once a year, while at the same time some are quite clearly using lights when they are not needed, such as in the example described above. It just doesn't make sense. Perhaps the WWF should be putting pressure on governments to outlaw all non-essential use of stadium floodlights, to ensure that they are only switched on at times when they are actually needed, i.e. in complete or partial darkness or in poor quality daylight. It is, to my mind at least, another example of the do as we say, not as we do attitude by some individuals in positions of power and influence. And that's from David Porter of Lenzie. Read all about it. Library closures must be opposed. Sir, I was extremely disappointed and angry to read on the Kirkintilloch Herald website about the vote by ED Leisure and Culture Trust to close 3 libraries. I'm opposed to all the closures, but as a resident of Milton of Campsie and a regular user of Craighead Library, I'm particularly concerned about the loss of my local library. Libraries are forces for public good, places of learning and discovery, and a service demand is funded by my council tax. I want to be able to take my young children to their local library in the future and let them explore the world through books. The village is expanding rapidly, and the most recent housing development isn't even complete. So any usage figures for Craighead Library are already misleading as an indicator of future use. I know the nurseries and primary school use the library regularly. It's a vital resource for those without internet connection in their homes, and events such as bookbug sessions provide an essential service for the parents and children of Milton of Campsie. Library closures are typical of a council which does not value its local communities. It feels like Milton of Campsie is being used as a building ground which will generate huge amounts of increased council tax revenue, while what pitiful investment there is in local public services is being bled dry. I hope the council thinks again and understands that the residents of these communities want, need and deserve a local library. And that was from Douglas Smith of Milton of Campsie. Charities. Used postage stamp appeal. Sir, I am appealing for used postage stamps which help me raise funds which I then donate to the guide dogs for the blind. Recycling used postage stamps is such an easy way to raise money for the charity, and I am always in need of all types of postage stamps, including British, foreign and Christmas stamps. If you are able to help, I would be grateful if you could cut the stamps from their envelopes, leaving approximately 1 centimetre margin around the stamp, and send them to the address below. And that's from Myra Chave, P.O. Box 91, Virginia Water, Surrey. Family history. New Red Cross database launch. Sir, on Sunday, November the 11th, the people of the UK will commemorate the centenary of the end of World War I. The British Red Cross has a near 150-year history of supporting people in the UK during times of crisis, and between 1914 and 1918, more than 90,000 people volunteered for the organisation, working as Voluntary Aid Detachments, VADs, in auxiliary hospitals at home and overseas. Most of these volunteers were women and included such notable figures as the author Agatha Christie, campaigner Vera Britton, Wimbledon champion Lottie Dodd, and suffragist Sophia Duleep Singh. However, the vast majority of World War I volunteers were ordinary women and men who cared for the wounded and sick, drove ambulances, and acted as clerks, cooks, and storekeepers. They gave dedicated, compassionate, and skilled humanitarian service at a time of national crisis, and the role of women during the war, in particular, led to significant social change with women, driven by their war experiences, seeking greater opportunities in the workplace and securing the same voting rights as men in 1928. Given the sheer number of people who volunteered as VADs during World War I, it seems likely that many of your readers will have ancestors who gave service during the conflict. And today, thanks to the popularity of genealogical websites and TV programmes like Who Do You Think You Are?, many are keen to trace their family trees and better understand the lives and wartime roles of their ancestors. Traditionally, much of that focus has been on the men who served, and in hundreds of thousands of cases lost their lives on the front line. Now, however, your readers can use our new online VAD database to find out if their ancestors, especially women relatives, performed a civilian role during the war. Searchable by name, location and occupation, the database includes service records and in some cases photographs. Anyone can access the website at www.redcross.org.uk and potentially discover new and illuminating facets to their family history. And that's from Dr. Alistair Brooks, British Red Cross. Mercy ships. Stena Donation Campaign. Sir, on Thursday, November 1st, Stena Line launched another fleet-wide donation campaign to support Mercy Ships, a charity organisation sailing around the world bringing free, life-saving medical care to where it's needed the most. During the month of November, customers on all Stena Line's 38 vessels will be encouraged to round up for charity. During the campaign period, Stena Line's customers will be given the opportunity to round up their on-board purchases and make a donation to Mercy Ships. We believe Round Up for Charity is a simple and effective way for our customers to help make a contribution to Mercy Ships' inspiring work. Last year we managed to raise £11,000 during a 2-month coffee campaign, and this year we hope to raise at least the same amount of money in half the time. The humanitarian, non-governmental organisation and Stena Line became partners in February 2017 to raise awareness of Mercy Ships, increase the interest for donations among Stena Line's customers and partners, as well as promote volunteering to employees who can share their unique technical and naval competence. We have found a partner that is committed to helping those who need it the most, and like us, see the benefits and the flexibility of having the ocean and ships as your workplace. It also embodies our core value, care. Stena Line has also launched its own volunteer programme. So far, 2 Stena Line employees have volunteered on board Mercy Ships' hospital ship, Africa Mercy, in Guinea, where hundreds of people have received free, life-saving medical care since the vessel arrived in August. We are proud and grateful to our employees. Their engagement is inspiring. The month-long campaign ends on Tuesday the 27th of November, a date which marks this year's #GivingTuesday, a charity equivalent to Black Friday and Cyber Monday, where instead of shopping, you are encouraged to make a charity donation. And that's from Nicholas Martinson, Stena Line. Wind turbines. When it pays not to produce. Sir, yet more subsidies are milked by the wind industry, with a record £4.8 million being paid in constraint payments on October the 8th for companies switching off their turbines because there was too much electricity. Owners received more than £100 million a year not to produce electricity. The present 3,335 turbines in Scotland is due to increase by another 2,957, and since turbines get priority on the grid, consumers will see electricity bills rocket, fuel poverty increase, and winter deaths escalate. A Scottish Government spokesman said wind electricity was needed to deliver the steep reductions in carbon emissions we so desperately need. What for Scotland's minuscule 0.13% of global emissions? The spin doctors and Scottish renewables monotonously parrot that wind electricity is the cheapest form of electricity generation, but when challenged, fail to provide any proof. Meanwhile, the rest of the world builds coal-fired power plants and burns fossil fuels. And that was from Clark Crofts of Linlithgow.
And now for Heart of the Matter, our reflection on personal health issues written by Dr. Frank Dunn. He says this week, Halloween is growing arms and legs. The shops this year were full of zombies, skeletons and severed hands, not to mention mock gravestones in the front garden of a house nearby. I wasn't even slightly tempted to buy my 4-year-old grandson a plastic axe. He was, however, a fairly convincing vampire. His 18-month-old brother, despite the cloak, looked his usual cute and bemused self. When I was a wee fella, Halloween wasn't such a big deal, and I was not unhappy as it was my birthday. So this week out came 72 candles. I am now way past the 70 but comforted by the fact that the life expectancy of men living in leafy Lenzie is 80.5 years. No doubt I will be hoping for a slight extension to that when I reach 80.4 years. This has led me to reflect on my lifestyle, and here is my report card. Diet gets 9 to 10, thanks to my wife. We eat loads of salads, fish and fruit. We have at least 1 coffee per day, and I always have a little something with it. My wife is more disciplined. Do I plan to give up the little something? No. Should I try to shed a few pounds? Probably. Avoiding nicotine, I get a 10. I remain opposed to nicotine in all forms. There's been huge improvements in the approach of society to this. Long may it continue to protect us all against a variety of cancers, heart and vascular disease and many other ailments. Physical activity receives a 7. The golf keeps the steps ticking over. My left hip is dodgy, and this has reduced my ability to get the heart rate up. I personally believe it is good, if possible, to get a sweat on, if possibly 2 or 3 times a week. Currently the treadmill is out for me, although I can still manage some exercise on the static bike. Alcohol intake, my dishonest assessment of this would be 10. My honest assessment would be nearer to a 6. Retirement has as one of its hazards a rather loose definition of what constitutes a weekend. In years gone by, my alcohol consumption was mainly clustered into the weekend. My current weekend usually starts on a Thursday evening after our babysitting duties, and a glass of wine is looked forward to and enjoyed. We try to have 2 or 3 alcohol-free days, and this laudable idea is put into practice from time to time. There is room for improvement. Company, keeping busy and singing, I deserve a 9.5 here for effort. I'm a passionate believer that all of these improve quality and life expectancy. Interacting with others is a great way of keeping the mind active, as is keeping busy. Singing, especially in a choir, has significant mental and physical benefits, as well as the galvanizing effect. Flu shot and visits to the GP, probably a 9. We should all avail ourselves of health screening as needed, e.g. blood pressure. I know to my cost the downside of not going for the flu jab. There are no excuses for missing it, and the older we get, the more damage flu does. The improvement in life expectancy has flatlined in recent years. The reasons for this are complex and include the rise in type 2 diabetes, the rise in obesity and the impact of infection in patients with other diseases. Sadly, drug addiction also contributes to this. I was delighted to read recently of the move towards doctors with a special interest in lifestyle measures. I applaud this, although in the years to come, all doctors will hopefully have this as a string to their bow. And there's a comment from the editor. He says, "A time for a nation to reflect and pay respect. This year's Remembrance Sunday will be particularly poignant, as it will be held on November the 11th, exactly 100 years since the end of World War I. Then called Armistice Day, the 2 minutes silence, first observed in 1919, marked the signing of the armistice, which brought about an end of hostilities in the Great War. For almost a century, people in cities, towns and villages across the United Kingdom and other Commonwealth countries have taken part in this quiet act of remembrance. Not only do we remember our ancestors who fought in the First World War, but we remember and show respect to our family members, friends and neighbours who made the ultimate sacrifice in many conflicts and wars since 1918 to secure and protect our freedom. It's frightening to think that more than 12,000 British servicemen and women have been killed or injured since the end of the Second World War. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. And then a thought from John Steinberg, who says, all war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. And big number is 1947, which is the date of the very first Edinburgh International Festival of Music and Drama, the Fringe, the world's largest art festival.
From their hands to your hands, wear it with pride. Meet the veterans who have handcrafted every poppy sold in Scotland. It's a unique workplace with an atmosphere all its own, largely thanks to the men and women who work there. The task at hand is one that personally means a lot to each and every employee. And it's perhaps for this reason, when you walk through the Lady Hague Poppy Factory doors in Edinburgh, there's a sense of leaving your worldly goals behind. There's also no sense that the 40 or so former service personnel are standing on ceremony for visitors. The good-natured banter continues as they go about their business. It's a camaraderie sadly now missing from many workplaces, where the bottom line means more than the product. But here the focus is firmly on production, with pride in every poppy that leaves the factory floor. Previously housing a printing press, it somehow feels like home, not least because we are warmly welcomed like old friends. It's a special year for the veterans, marking 100 years since the end of World War I and the creation of a unique anniversary poppy. But the pressure is largely off when we visit, as the majority of the 5 million or so poppies created for this year's appeal have already been dispatched. Work continues apace, though, as staff finish off wreaths, orders which will be laid at ceremonies the length and breadth of the country. The team are, however, more than happy to give us a tour and tell us about their own experiences. David Adamson is our very informative tour guide. The 62-year-old, who was in the army for 22 years and thereafter the police for 18, has worked at the factory for the last 7 years. He said, I finished with the police on the Saturday and started working here on the Monday and have been here ever since. I'm now one of the official tour guides and I thoroughly enjoy it. It's been fascinating for me finding out about the history of the poppy and what it means to people. Most of the stuff up on the walls has been presented to us by visitors and military organisations. Around 3,000 school kids also visit every year and they love every minute of it. It can be like herding cats at times, but they always ask really interesting questions and we're often surprised by the knowledge they have. We show them how to make the poppies and tell them that our numbers are on the back of each box sold. So if you ever see school children looking at the back of the box, they're looking for our numbers. Mine is 141. On a whistle-stop tour, we discover how the poppies are printed and cut out on 130-year-old printing presses left in the building when the Lady Hague Poppy Factory relocated from the grounds of Whiteford House in 1965 to the city's Waterston Road. Lapel poppies may no longer be cut by hand, but each one is still handcrafted. The paper from which the poppies is made arrives in the factory in large rolls. These are passed through the cutting and pressing machine and the poppy petals cut to size. Then the team add the distinctive ribbon which makes the Scottish poppy unique before they start assembling them. Around 1 million stick-on poppies and 4 million green stem poppies are produced each year, and visitors are always given a chance to make their own, which school children in particular love, as testified by the many letters and posters on the walls. David, who has 3 children and 7 grandchildren, added, "The bairns lap this place up. They love making the poppies, then they go back to school, do a project, and send in posters or letters for our walls. We've not got a lot of space, but we try to display as many as we can." Instilling a sense of pride in the poppy in future generations is one of the things I love most about working here. David and his colleagues also display personal mementos, some of which serve to remind them of just how much their work means. Thomas McPhillips, aged 73, was a Royal Corps of Signals radio operator in the 1960s. His grandfather, William Anthony, a Lance Corporal with Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, died at Passchendaele on July the 16th, 1917. And a picture of his cousin's son, Gary O'Donnell from South Queensferry, now also takes pride of place on his desk. He explained, "Gary was killed trying to defuse a Taliban bomb in Afghanistan in September 2008. He was only 40. In 2006, he was awarded the George Medal for bravery demonstrated in Iraq. He was awarded another George Medal posthumously in March 2009, one of the only soldiers to receive 2. I keep Gary's picture on my desk just in case my head ever goes down a bit. That rarely happens here, though. It's a lovely place to work. I've been here for 15 years and it's just like being back in the barracks. I love it." One of the youngest recruits, Danny Wren Owden, joined the army when he was just 16 years old. He served for 7 years, including a tour in Afghanistan in 2012, which later resulted in his medical discharge in January 2016 due to post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. The 26-year-old initially applied for a job with Poppy Scotland, which put him in touch with the Poppy Factory. He said, "I emailed in my CV, and within a matter of minutes, Charlie Pelling, the factory manager, replied asking me to come in. He offered me a job right away. I've been part-time since December 2017. It's the perfect fit for Danny, who for health reasons wanted to ease back into employment. He said, "It's giving me the routine that I really needed, but in a workplace that feels like second nature." Everyone has been in the military, so that camaraderie is already there. They are a great bunch, even if they do like winding me up because I'm originally from Cornwall. The flexibility offered at the factory is ideal for Danny, who hopes in future to help veterans who find themselves in his position. He added, "I'd like to go into counselling veterans, but I need to go back to college. I joined up when I was 16, so only had my high school education, so I'm looking into doing part-time or night classes while working here. For me, the factory has given me back some of the confidence I needed to consider a new career. There's no pressure or stress here, And if you're having a bad day, that's fine. That's allowed here.
Martin returns to inspire the next generation of musicians. The SCO's associate composer from East Dunbartonshire was delighted to collaborate with local pupils on his new composition for Armistice Centenary. This is by Julie Curry. Former St Andrews Primary and Bearsden Academy pupil Martin Suckling returned home recently to help inspire a future generation of young musicians. As the Scottish Chamber Orchestra's associate composer, Martin has been working on a special composition this year to commemorate the centenary of Armistice Day. But the 36-year-old didn't work in isolation on meditation after John Donne, the poet. He invited the whole country to get involved. Community groups and churches across Scotland were asked to sample their local church bells and submit them. More than 100 different bells were recorded and have now been sampled and included in the work. The composition will be premiered in St Andrews, Edinburgh and Glasgow from November the 7th to the 9th. However, local school pupils were among the first to hear the composition and create their own version. For Martin and a team from the SCO, namely Paul Griffiths, the workshop leader, Aisling O'Dea, violin, and Yvonne Robertson, flute, recently held workshops with pupils from Mulgai, Clover and Baldernock primary schools. A workshop was also held at Douglas Academy where Martin studied A-level music. Working with pupils is hugely important to Martin as it helped inspire his own career choices. He explained, 20 years ago I was involved in a workshop Paul Griffiths led. It was one of the things that made me want to become a composer. I told pupils how it had inspired me when I was their age. One of the students at the Academy workshop was from Bearsden and asked me when I left the Academy. When I told her it was 1999, she looked at me and said, I wasn't even born then. Douglas Academy is on the same site, but it's a new school now. It was still lovely to go back though. I was a Bearsden Academy pupil, but went to Douglas for my A-level music. It was nice to spend some time at home with my parents Catherine and Colin, who still live in Bearsden, but being able to inspire pupils at my old school was amazing. It's crystal clear from the workshop's feedback that it helped inspire youngsters. Martin said, the pupils were invited to write on a post-it note what they had taken from the workshop. One young girl wrote that she didn't normally feel confident playing her instrument, but she said being involved in the workshop helped build her confidence and confirmed that she wanted to be a musician. These young people are our future musicians, composers and audiences. Pupils are so busy in school these days, it's great to be able to take something to them that's a wee bit out of the ordinary. We're not following the curriculum, we're just giving them a chance to explore the music and expand on their ideas. Music can be anything you want it to be. You can be creative and experimental. And I think the workshop gave the pupils the opportunity to do that. Martin and the SCO have conducted 10 workshops with 300 Scottish pupils. Each class has created their own composition based on a cut-down version of Meditation after John Donne. Martin said, the SCO haven't even performed it yet, but pupils have created their own unique compositions. We talked to the pupils about the composition and how it was inspired by John Donne's Meditation 17. The poet's reflections are triggered by the tolling of a distant bell. On November the 11th, 1918, church bells across the country pealed to signify the end of World War I. That is why we sampled church bells from all over the country for the composition. We asked the pupils to consider all that, while they came up with their own melodies and songs to accompany the bells. And at the end of each session, we recorded the pupils' own version. So before the SCO even performs meditation after done, we already have many variations of it. It was always meant to be a collaborative work which would live long after the Armistice centenary. It's fantastic that we've already been able to make that a reality. Martin and the SCO are now looking forward to performing the piece in St Andrews on November the 7th, Edinburgh on November the 8th, and Glasgow on November the 9th. He added, "It will be the culmination of a year's work, but was only made possible thanks to people across the country who submitted bell recordings, all of whom will be credited in the programme."
Now there's a classical guitar genius to play at Mulgai Club. Edinburgh-born classical guitarist Sean Shibby is one of the most exciting young musicians to emerge from Scotland in many years. Mulgai Music Club has managed to find time in Sean's busy international schedule to book him for their next concert on Friday, November 16. It was the Art Desk website which used the word genius, a term which should rarely be applied to performing musicians, but at 25 it has. He's already been compared to the great classical guitarist Julian Bream by the Sunday Times, and his recordings have had rave reviews. Sean was elected by BBC Radio 3 to be the first guitar player to be included in its new generation artist scheme, and since then his career has really taken off, making him a hot property in some of the world's most famous concert venues. He had previously studied at the Royal Conservatoire in Scotland and in Italy. He's gone on to perform at major festivals and renowned venues around the world, and he's appeared with leading orchestras, including the BBC Scottish Symphony, Scottish Chamber Orchestra, BBC National Orchestra of Wales and BBC Symphony Orchestra. This year, Sean released his hugely successful debut album Dreams and Fancies, on Delphinium Records, and the album secured him a nomination in the BBC Music Magazine Instrumental Award category. And he went on to win the Young Artist Award from the Royal Philharmonia Society. December gig for Young Star of the Cello. Looking ahead, Mulgai Music Club's December concert features a young rising star of the cello from Azerbaijan, a former Soviet republic that has produced an impressive number of world-class classical museums in recent years. He made his debut at the Proms in London last year, and he also gave an acclaimed performance at London's Wigmore Hall, where he was selected to join the Young Concert Artists Trust. International appearances have taken him as far afield as Moscow and Singapore, and he's made several broadcasts on BBC Radio 3. And an article about house sparrows are home to roost. A while back, I wrote about my worry that my local house sparrows were in decline, but I can now report that their fortunes have turned, in fact been transformed. Having had major roof work done a few years ago, the numbers seem to plummet, and this is a common situation for our domestic cohabitee of the bird world. They are a victim of home improvements. Not only did my summertime breeding birds seem to go, but the wintertime visitors to the bird table had left as well. Anyway, the situation is now completely turned around and seems to link to management of hedges to favour roosting birds. And I think this year breeding ones too. I also fed the birds with mixed seed throughout the summer, and that seems to have paid dividends, though the table manners of the young sparrows have much to be desired. The youngsters seem to flick times as flick 10 times as much seed onto the ground than they consume by eating. As compensation for the loss of breeding sites around the roof and the gutters, I've put up 2 triple entrance bird boxes. Too late for this year, but hopefully good for the next one. Only time will tell.
A natural boundary that can last for generations. Hawthorn is ideal to keep intruders out and livestock in. Hawthorn, or Crataegus monogonum, beloved of our country hedgerows, was a wonderful sight in May when covered in blossom and its eye-catching, again laden with berries as autumn deepens. But perhaps its greatest asset is the ability to form a dense boundary hedge guaranteed to keep intruders out, livestock in. Given a decent start in life and careful maintenance, it will serve generations. Our garden hawthorns are trimmed in early June, giving nesting birds time to complete their task. Then by late September, it's ready for the final tidy-up clip ahead of winter. Around the same time, we see the tractor with flailing attachment offering a once-a-year trim to the hawthorn line in country roads. Positive though the seasonal maintenance is, there comes a time when more drastic action is required to secure regeneration and longevity. That is when the laying process is applied to give a hawthorn hedge Methuselah status. There are circa 30 regional variations of hedge laying, the height and structure depending upon what the land itself is used for. Once the process has been completed, it will hold for decades. New growth emerges from the heel cuts and existing canopy, which continues to receive sustenance from the roots. The National Hedge Laying Society is committed to conserving hedgerows through traditional skills. Hedges are important for our wildlife, environmental heritage and scenic value. Encouraging regional competitions, organising national events and offering skills workshops are part of its offering. This is the ideal time to plant a boundary hedge. Saplings are sold in bundles at garden centres, and a double row set out in staggered formation as bricks in a wall will turn into an effective barrier and support a diversity of wildlife. But hawthorn can also be a standalone ornamental tree in your garden. Special cultivators with double flowers and fruits are Paul's scarlet, plena, which is white, and Rosea flori pleno, which is pink. Crataegus can also be attractive bush tree that allows a clematis or rose to wander up through its branches and share growing space. A thorny customer to deal with at times, but a pussycat if you give it the respect it deserves. And now we have talking point. Our feline friends. There are 11.1 million cats in the UK, compared with 8.9 million dogs. 25% of UK adults have a cat. 19% of owners describe their cat as overweight or obese. 35% of owners say their cat didn't have vaccinations when young. 32% of cats are not microchipped. 92% of cat vets say cat microchipping should be compulsory.
And now from the churches, Lindsay Union Parish Church. Sunday, November the 11th, evening service is at 7 p.m. in the church hall. The church is open for quiet reflection on a Wednesday from 10 to 11 a.m. A short time of prayer is held at 10:15 a.m. The Meeting Place coffee shop is open 10 a.m. to noon on Wednesdays. Join friends for coffee, tea and home baking. The coffee pot is open Fridays, 10 to 11:45 for a chat, home baking, tea and coffee. A variety concert is being held on Saturday, November the 17th in the new hall at 7:30. Tickets are £7 in aid of Alzheimer's Scotland, Cartas Carers Link. Lenzie Old Parish Church. The Quilting and Craft Group meets on Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. The church is open for prayer on Thursday from 10 a.m. A St Andrew's concert will take place on Friday, November the 23rd at 7:30 p.m. Tickets £5, including refreshments. St Cyprian's Church, Lenzie. On Sunday we remember those who gave their lives in the two great wars, and also mark the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. We will be doing this at St Cyprian's in our service at 10:30 a.m. We will be part of the service at the Woodley War Memorial at 2 p.m. We have a special Armistice Centenary concert on Saturday, November the 10th. Tickets £10 for adults, free for young people. Pay on the door. Our phone 0141 776 3866. Millerston United Free Church. Remembering War. Praying for Peace. This is our theme for our remembrance service on this 100th anniversary year of the end of the First World War. Our service starts at 10:50 a.m. so that we can observe a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. During the week, our craft group meets each Wednesday from 1:30 p.m, while our next fortnightly Bible study and prayer time takes place today, Wednesday. Everybody is welcome to any of our get-togethers. We have our autumn coffee morning and craft fair on Saturday, November the 10th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you're looking for some unique handmade gifts for Christmas, you might find something here. Then on Saturday, November the 17th, we are hosting Tier Fund's Big Quiz, a nationwide multi-site quiz to raise funds for the Syrian refugees in Lebanon and to have fun at the same time. Come and join a team or bring a team. Church of Scotland, Lenzie. There will be a joint remembrance service at Lenzie Old Parish Church on Sunday, November the 11th at 10:50 a.m, led by Reverend Dan Carmichael. St Columba's is hosting an Acts service to commemorate the end of the First World War. All welcome at 7 p.m. on Saturday, November the 24th. St Columba's is holding a ceilidh as we celebrate our 50th anniversary year. Tickets priced £10 each are available from the church office or telephone 0141 578 0016. Community events. Bishopbriggs Community Council. There will be a meeting of the Community Council on Wednesday, November 20th within the library at 7 p.m. Business includes police report, town centre, gala report, remembrance and Facebook. Kirkintilloch, coffee morning. The Guild at Kenmure Parish Church is holding a coffee morning on Saturday, November the 10th from 10 a.m. to noon. Home baking, Christmas goods and a bygone stall will be available. Tickets, adults £2.50, children £1, will be on sale at the door on the day. Horticultural Society. Last month, members of Kirkintilloch Horticultural Society enjoyed an illustrated talk given by Louise Bustard, Education Officer at Glasgow's Botanic Gardens. We learnt about gardens in Holland and the plants grown there. Our next garden club meeting will take place on Thursday, November the 15th from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. in Enterprise House, Kirkintilloch. The speaker will be Dr. Alexandra Schlenzig, and her topic will be non-native plant pests and the risks they pose for the garden and environment. Anyone interested in coming along will be made welcome or can call Errol Birchall on 0141 776 5978 for more information. Auchinloch, afternoon tea. Auchinloch Thursday Lunch and Activities Club is hosting an afternoon tea on Saturday, November the 24th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Auchinloch Bowling Club, 4th Avenue. There will be crafts, knitted and crocheted goods, tombola, jewellery and home baking stalls. Go along and buy some Christmas gifts. Entry £2, children free, and will include tea, coffee or juice and some tasty home baking. Tickets are available from our members or at the door on the day. The club meets fortnightly on Thursdays from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. in the Community Hall, Langmuirhead Road. We look forward to a return trip to McKinnon Mills this month. Christmas lunch at the Golden Pheasant in December and a local panto in the new year. If you would like to try our club, please contact Myrtle Marshall on 0141 572 5267. Sale. Lenzie Community Council is holding its annual charity Christmas card and gift sale on Saturday, November the 10th at Lenzie Old Parish Church. Come along between 10 a.m. and noon to shop from a wide range of Christmas cards and support charity fundraising. Admission is free, but there is a charge of £2 for tea, coffee and home baking. WRI, Torrance. Our meeting, Sweet Rosie, will take place at the Caldwell Hall on Monday, November the 12th at 7:30 p.m. with speaker Rosalind Morrison. Competition, favourite brooch. And now schools. Lenzie Academy. 2 of the most experienced S6 volunteers organised and ran a focus group to gain young people's views on Saltire Awards before sending feedback to YouthLink Scotland, which is evaluating the Scottish Government-backed scheme for youth volunteering. The focus group gained views from volunteers across the school years and from a wide range of volunteering groups. 15 of the current S4 have volunteered to lead a new initiative in school by becoming health and well-being mentors. They undertook an intensive anti-bullying training event run by the Diana Award, accredited anti-bullying pro group, which gave them the opportunity to fully understand all forms of bullying and gave practical ways to identify and address issues when they arise. The mentors are now working towards their first badge, having identified well-being as the area of immediate focus. They are in the process of planning 3 long-term initiatives and 1 event, which they will run over the next 10 months. Turnbull High, Iceland trip. Geography department took 7 pupils from S4 and S6 to Iceland, where they got to know more about things that they had been studying over the past year. As soon as they arrived in Keflavik, they all got changed into their outdoor gear and went to their first destination, which was the bridge between 2 continents. This used to be the diverging plate margins of the North American and Eurasian plate margins. They also went to a hot spring. Another thing that they visited was the Secret Lagoon, which is also a hot spring heated by geothermal heat from the volcanic activity. This is used as a bath, and we got to go in and swim. They visited the Gullfoss waterfall, which is accredited as one of the biggest waterfalls in Iceland. Something that they were all looking forward to seeing were the open geysers. This was such an amazing experience to see happen in real life. They visited a lava centre where they learned about different types of lava that erupt from a volcano. They also learned how volcanoes form and what happens when they erupt. They visited a black sand beach, which is formed from minerals and ash from past volcanic eruptions that have taken place in Iceland. On their final day, they spent some time in Reykjavik.
Rob Roy lose late goal as points are shared with Largs. A wonder goal from Largs Thistle denied Rob Roy all 3 points as they bounced back from last week's Scottish Cup exit. It was Largs Thistle 1, Rob Roy 1. And Rob Roy boss Stuart Maxwell said he was gutted after his team came close to an away win at Largs Thistle. A wonder goal 5 minutes from time from Largs' Mark Miller cancelled out a first-half strike from Roy's Joe Slattery. Despite his disappointment, Maxwell said he was pleased with the way his side had responded to last weekend's Scottish Cup exit to Thornton Hibs. "I had made a few changes," he said. "We've been giving away cheap goals all season, so on Saturday I demanded that we stop doing that. We scored a really good goal and defended well. We went in at half-time comfortably 1-0 ahead. We knew they would come out of the traps in the second half. They're undefeated at home all season and are a good side, but we coped with it really well. We hit the post with 15 to go, and I think if that had gone in, the game would have been done. Then Millers picked the ball up from 40 yards and hit an absolute worldly. There's nothing you can do about that. But to a man, they were excellent. They worked their socks off. Now Rob Roy welcomes St Anthony's to Guy's Meadow in the West of Scotland Cup on Saturday." Maxwell said, "So-called smaller teams want to come and beat Rob Roy. I'll freshen things up because we've been to the quarter-final stages for the last 3 years, so we want to do well in this competition." "We passed the top team's test," says Ross Vale manager. His side proved they can match teams at the top of the league. Moffat watched his side thump league leaders Rutherglen Glencairn by 3-0 on Saturday, thanks to a hat-trick from team captain Jamie Hunter, and says it was a victory that was thoroughly deserved. "For me, it was a test to see where we were," he said. "I know we're a good team, but for me, Rutherglen are one of the teams that will go up this year, so I'm delighted with the result. I don't even think it was our best performance, to be honest. I think we can play better than that. We still missed chances, including a penalty, so we could have been slicker. But we gave the boys a game plan because we knew we were playing a good team. So in terms of being disciplined, it was probably our best performance in that respect." Moffat praised his captain Hunter for a man-of-the-match performance. "I made a point of saying to Jamie in the team talk before the game that he really needed to perform, and he delivered. I couldn't have asked for more. I'm delighted for him because Jamie will probably say himself that he's probably not hit a level of consistency yet that he was at last season. But we've started seeing that over the last few weeks, so it's good for him, and it's obviously good for the team. Now Moffat wants to see Ross Vale go on a run of results, saying that Saturday gives them a platform to build from. I think that we're getting closer to where we can as a team. I've said to them there's no point in beating the team at the top of the league, then taking our foot off the gas over the next few weeks. Next for Ross Vale is a trip to Ashfield on Saturday in the West of Scotland Cup. It'll be hard, Moffat said. The pitch dimensions probably won't suit us, but you've got to deal with that. We'll make a couple of changes and adapt our game a wee bit. Moffat will miss the match due to work commitments, but says he's no concerns. It's frustrating for me, but my assistants will make sure everyone is prepared. Now that's all from the B team for this week. Hope you have a good week. Keep well, keep warm, and we'll look forward to reading to you again in 4 weeks' time. Bye for now.